Okay, guys, thank you very much for waiting. I apologize for the delay. We got a serious lightning storm here, and it just kind of put me behind schedule. And I wanted you guys to see that last video I did because that is the springboard for this video. People can call me hypercritical. This is kind of it's a bad thing for a channel to do a video like this, to do a live stream like this, because it turns a lot of people off. I'm not here to accumulate a massive amount of subscribers and followers. I'm here for the truth and the truth alone. And if that turns you off, then this isn't it's not the channel for you guys. I'm sick of compromise. Just like I said in the last video, the enemy of your freedoms, the biggest enemy of your freedoms is you. If you compromise, if you become apathetic, if you become indifferent toward freedom, you will lose it. Not might lose it, you will lose it. One of the things that I really, really love about Trish is she has the most sensitive BS meter I've ever seen in my life, to the point where we're sitting there watching a movie and she's like, this sucks. This acting sucks. I don't care if it's Denzel, whatever it is. It sucks. And what's up with that right there? And when we listen to videos, it's like, well, hold on a second, stop that. And I'm like, come on, let's listen to this. No, you got to stop it because what they said was freaking wrong and we need to examine it. So when we listen to stuff, we take notes. We're not leisurely listening. We're taking notes. And I hope you're doing the same thing. It's just consistent with, okay, I've been suckered long enough. I've been deceived by the best and by the worst. I've let my guard down. I've become apathetic. I had become indifferent. I had compromised, and that time is over. I'm done. I've checked out of the cult of personality and I ain't going back. I don't care who the man is. I don't care who the woman is. I don't care how good they sound. I don't care how polished their act. I'm not going to buy it unless it lines up with liberty. If it's inconsistent with liberty, they are my enemy. Why? Because if they want to take my enemy, if they want to take my liberty, then they want to take my girlfriend's liberty, and they want to take my kids' liberty, and they want to take away the liberty of everybody in my zone of influence that I love, my friends, all my relatives. If you take away somebody's liberty, if somebody wants to deceive you to the point where they're going to take away your liberty or their freedom, they're aiming to take away your life. Is there something more serious on this planet than taking away the life of another person? I can't think of it. If there is, leave it in the comment section. I want to know what's more important than a man or a woman thinking they have a higher claim over the life and property of others to the point where they can take away somebody's life. Because that's what's happening today. Liberties have been taken away and bodies are going to stack up, guys. We haven't even seen the rough spot yet. 26.5 million people are out of work. America, this country that was never supposed to be a socialist nation, all of a sudden has miles and miles and miles long socialist style bread lines while people are waiting for food banks because they can't feed their kids. Not enough money's coming in. They can't go to the stores. The store shelves are empty. When you take away somebody's freedom, you are literally taking away their life. And if you give up a little essential liberty, you don't deserve the security that you were promised by those political parasites who never deliver on their promises. Laughs on us, jokes on us. So this video right here is going viral. A lot of people have covered it in the liberty movement. Let's see, what's wrong with the screen? It's on a tilt or something. There we go. The name of this, it comes from this video right here. I've got this in my program because I have it split up because I want to talk to you about, thanks Freedom Fighter. I have it split up because I want to talk about certain segments here. A lot of people like it because they said a lot of really good sounding words. But isn't that what a deceiver is supposed to do? They don't just come at you with lies. This is the actual video right here. It's Dr. Erickson, COVID-19 briefing. And this video right here, this channel only has 131,000 views, but other channels that have covered it have hundreds of thousands. One, Next News Network, last time I looked, had like 350,000 views, and it was premiered like 18 hours ago. So this is going to go supernova. And people are going to buy into what these guys say because they're experts. And they sound like they're along the lines of liberty. But who has a higher potential to deceive you than somebody who's a little bit closer to liberty. You're not going to be deceived by Barack Obama. You're not going to be deceived by a Hillary Clinton or a who's that guy that did the Fast and Furious, Eric Holder, or a Hank Paulson with the TARP bailout. You're not going to be deceived by a Bill Clinton. No, you'll be deceived more along the lines of somebody who's more, closer to your flavor. Think 31 Flavors Baskin Robbins. Something that you're a little bit more on board with. And, I could take that. I could take 6.2 million up to, what, because it came from Trump. And then we'll attack Fauci. We'll go after Fauci because it's all Fauci's fault. Even though Trump handed the keys to the kingdom over to the bankers. And you get to suffer for it. And innumerable people who are not even born yet. The parents haven't even met yet for them to be born in the future are on the hook for $6.2 trillion additional dollars of transgenerational debt slavery. And people are going to try to blow Trump out of the water about some statement he made about disinfectants being injected into you. Give me a break. I could take that kind of crap all day long, but don't sign my name and my children and grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren's names away in the name of providing a stimulus and handing my all your posterity shot, guys. Not just because of Trump, but because of Obama and all the other banker puppets. Matter of fact, if you're hacking at Trump, if you're hacking at Obama, you're just hacking at the branches. We need to direct that attention, that energy, the sharpness of that axe, our ire, our anger. How incensed are you? We need to direct that at the root. The Zionist International Banking Cartel. Zionist International Banking Cartel. Washington's District of Criminals. The Federal Reserve. The IRS. The IMF. Bilderberg. The Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission. Okay, so let's get into this. Before I get into this, let me ask you a question. How important is liberty to you? How important is it? Let me ask you another question. Are you really against vaccines, or are you just against them because when Bill Gates talks about them? Or when the biotech companies start talking about it, or the big pharmas start talking about how, yeah, we need vaccines. Are you really against vaccines? How about testing? Who benefits from all these tests? The president of the St. Louis Federal Reserve, James Bullard, said we need to test every American every single day. And a Vox News article said some experts are saying we need 35 million tests a day to test Americans or they can't go back to work. No tests, no work. You ain't clocking in if you haven't taken a test. And until we see that it's negative, how many of those are there going to be? You got an 80% false positive rate on the PCR test. No telling how inaccurate the other test is that tests for the antibodies. So are you for tests or against tests? Because if you're for tests, you're for the biotech and pharmaceutical companies. If you're for the vaccines, you're for the biotech and pharmaceutical companies and for Bill Gates. So you have to establish right now what is right and what is wrong. You know why you should be for liberty? Because it is right. Not because it's popular, not because it's palatable, not because you think it's going to strike a chord in somebody and it's going to benefit you in some way. It's just because it's right. Not because it's pragmatic, not because it works. It's because it's right. You're for freedom because it's right, as opposed to that which is wrong. Because it's wrong to be against freedom in any shade, at any level, at any time, from anybody, for any reason. So let me ask you a last question. Are these rights that we supposedly have inalienable, or are they not? Can they be moved and taken by another person or given by another person? Or are they immovable, unshakable, can't be taken from you? Is there ever a reason? Is there ever a good justification to, quote, dance on somebody else's rights? We're going to get into that in this right here. And I want you to stay with me because that is the springboard. You may have bought into these guys. I don't buy into them. To me, they are controlled opposition, and I'm going to show you why. I'm going to demonstrate it. I'm going to give you my objective reasonings, and I want to hear your guys' rebuttal. That's why I wanted to go live on this. And I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible. We're already 9 minutes into this. They usually cut me off at 40, so I got to really get moving. Okay, so I want to get to some good words, okay? Here's some good words that he speaks. I'm going to test the sound level, see if you guys can hear this.
What is materializing in the state of California is 12% positives. Well, if we have 39.5 million people. If we just take a basic calculation.
Can you guys hear that okay? That's as loud as it goes. There's no other adjustment I can make. I'm all the way up. 5 by 5, good. Okay, here we go. So he's talking about there were 33,865 out of 280,900 Californians that were tested. 12%, he says, of Californians tested positive if you interpolate that out. But he's exercising trust in the tests that have demonstrated utter trustworthiness. That's the first, I didn't even catch that when I was, going over this the first time. Trish yelled from the other room. She's like, hey, hold on. What did he just say? What's going, wait, stop that. And I'm like, what? He didn't say anything wrong. She's like, yeah, play it back. So he's buying into the validity of the PCR test, which have no gold standard. You can't, if you have a test that only tests for a sequence of RNA and not the virus itself that you're trying to find, you might as well. I was talking to Andrew Kaufman today. I was like, you know what that's like? That's like playing pin the tail on the donkey, and at a birthday party, and you blindfold your kid and you give them the donkey tail, and they pin it on the passing trash truck, and everybody's applauding and going, you got it exactly right. This is great. They don't even know what they're shooting at because they didn't purify and they didn't visualize the so-called virus, what some call exosomes. So he's exercising right off the bat. He's exercising faith in a test that demonstrates objectively 80% false positives.
Calculation and extrapolate that out, that equates to about 4.7 million cases throughout the state of California, which means this thing is widespread.
That's a faulty assumption based on a faulty test. I can't even believe I'm listening to a doctor say that. I'm not a doctor. Oh, Brian, you're not a doctor. You're not qualified to say. Look, all you got to have is common sense. If you got a test that you can't trust and it's demonstrated that you can't trust it, then how the hell can you even come up with a 12% number and extrapolate that out? You don't even have a number to start with. It's bizarre, guys. It is utterly bizarre. This is like COINTELPRO psychological operations where they're basically telling you, well, just believe me because I'm an expert. And when you start going down that road, you are truly in the cult of personality, and you've solidified yourself in the cult of not only the cult of personality, but the cognitive dissonance that goes along with it.
The good news, we've seen 1,227 deaths in the state of California with a possible incidence or prevalence of 4.7 million. That means you have a 0.03 chance of dying from COVID-19 in the state of California.
And that's with false positive tests that you cannot rely on. What does that tell you? Because they're trying to throw every number in the book at CV19, guys, and it's still not as deadly as the seasonal flu, which we've never shut anything down for. So you got a test that you can't trust, and numbers that you can't trust, numbers that are fixed, and they're piling numbers upon numbers, and you still come out with a 0.03. That's 0.03%. 2 plus 2 equals 1984. Yes, I was talking to me and Trish were having this killer conversation, very in-depth conversation, and we were talking about how it's just like Common Core. It's like 2 plus 2 equals 5. And they applaud little Johnny. Good job. 2 plus 2 equals 5. This is great. It's like this new normal. It's this new paradigm that they're trying to get us used to that's not based and rooted in fact at all. Very interesting. Fascinating to see played out.
0.03 chance of dying from COVID in the state of California. Does that necessitate sheltering in place? Does that necessitate shutting down medical systems? Does that necessitate people being out of work?
All really, really good questions. I'm going to give credit where credit is due. All very good questions. And the answer is absolutely not. We should not be sheltering in place when we have all these padded numbers that don't even touch the so-called, quote unquote seasonal flu. And guys, I take the CDC and the World Health Organization numbers and use it as a bat and beat them over the head with it because they're freaking hypocrites. They've known. The World Health Organization guy that came out, Tedros, whatever his last name is, I can't pronounce it, who's in an organization that was declared by the US State Department as a terrorist organization, says it's 3.4% case fatality rate. What a lie. Based on what, Tedros? And then Fauci goes, no, it's 1%, but that means it's still 10 times more infectious and deadly as the flu. What a lie. Based on what, Fauci? You didn't even have numbers yet. You're just guessing and trying to extrapolate stuff out, and you're talking out your ass. Well, because I'm talking out my ass, we need to shut things down. And everybody goes, okay, Dr. Fauci knows best because he's the expert. We better roll over and give away our rights. Shelter in place, everybody. Put on your mask. Be good little boys and girls. Don't go out. Don't play in the playground. Make sure you submit to being arrested if your kids are playing on the little swing set outside.
So that's California, and I also wanted to mention that 96% of people in California who get COVID recover with almost no significant sequelae or no significant continuing medical problems.
Okay, so now in this part right here at 15:19, by the way, the timestamp on that was 5:09. This right here is 15:19. Listen to this.
The next thing I wanted to talk about.
We're going to talk about secondary effects right here, which we've talked about a lot on this channel, and it's obvious. It's common sense. You don't need to be a rocket scientist or a submarine scientist or a nuclear scientist for this. Listen to this.
Is the effects of COVID-19, the secondary effects. COVID-19 is one aspect of our health sector. What has it caused to have us be involved in social isolation? What has it caused that we are seeing the community respond to? Child molestation is increasing at a severe rate. We could go over multiple cases.
Let me just say something about that. Trish brought up a good point on this. What level of being quarantined or isolated or even put in solitary confinement would bring out the pedophile in somebody? Nothing. No level of deprivation for the human being can bring out that kind of thing. That's in the human heart. Now, people being driven to drink and drug abuse, and they're at their wits' end, they're at the end of their rope, and they're getting angry and they can't go out to work. That's different. But you're not going to put your hand against a kid because you've been shut down and quarantined. You got to be off your let me just say this about people who would do that kind of thing to the kids. They don't deserve to live another 2 seconds. And I'll just end with that. Perhaps a 40-cent, choose your caliber of ammunition for that.
Cases of children who have been molested due to angry family members who are intoxicated, who are home, who have no paycheck. These things last a lifetime. This isn't about a seasonal flu. These are things that will follow these people and affect them in a negative fashion for their life. And these are secondary effects from COVID. And these are from me talking to ERs, talking to my doctors, and talking to people across the country and finding out what they're seeing. Spousal abuse. We see people coming in here with black eyes and cuts on their face. It's an obvious.
Why would you lift your hand against your spouse just because you're quarantined? Yeah, I understand there's hopelessness and all that kind of stuff. But why would you reach out your hand to abuse somebody? It's because it's in your heart to do that. Yes, people can be driven to do things in despair and fear and all that kind of stuff, but there are certain things that a normal, compassionate person with a human heart just will not do, guys.
Obvious abuse case. These aren't
really the big issues I have with this guy. Yeah, there are secondary effects to this shutdown. 26.5 million people out of a job, forced to be standing in a socialist breadline. Come on, that's incredible. How about the bankers who just got away with one of the biggest single bank heists, and all the corporate media oligarchs, not only in the media, mainstream media, but everybody who's building up the corporate debt bubble since 2008. They don't just need to be put in jail. I'm gonna withhold my comments. This right here is on timestamp 17. He's talking about flu deaths and lethality, which are much less than CV.
So we've gone over the secondary effects. We've gone over the statistics. Now I want to compare flu virus. Is this significantly different? And I just got a little bit of data here. So deaths, per the CDC, 24,000 to 62,000 deaths each year. We had about 45 million total cases in 2017 with about 62,000 deaths, or a 0.13 chance of death from flu in the United States. As you know, our other numbers were 0.02. So the lethality of COVID-19 is much less. Now you've got hotbeds of it in New York, but again...
Okay, so the overall tenor of what he's saying appears to be right, okay? The overall lethality of CV-19 is far less than the stated numbers from the CDC or the World Health Organization. We already knew this, guys. We were talking about this 6 or 7 weeks ago. This is nothing new. This is the stuff they've been trying, mainstream media's been trying to hide from you when they put out the Johns Hopkins fear porn map numbers to get everybody all scared into obeying and complying with the government. We're going to come back to this, though. This is very important because he made a very interesting point. The lethality for CV is far less than seasonal flu. That is going to be a very important point to come back to. And you'll see why. This right here, he says something really good about the immune system that I really want you to hear, because this also is what we've been saying for the last 6 or 7 weeks.
Now I want to talk about the immune system. Dr. Masihi used to teach for immunology. We both had years of microbiology, biochemistry, and virology studies. We've made it our life's work to understand this stuff. And here, I'd like to go over some basic things about how the immune system functions so people have a good understanding. The immune system is built by exposure to antigens, viruses, bacteria. When you're a little child crawling on the ground, putting stuff in your mouth, viruses and bacteria come in, you form an antigen-antibody complex, you form IgG, IgM. This is how your immune system is built. You don't take a small child, put them in bubble wrap in a room and say, go have a healthy immune system. This is immunology, microbiology 101.
And that's something we have got to understand, guys. That is so true. And we've said this so many times on this channel. The immune system is like a muscle. Anything you can look at in life that when you apply resistance to it, for example, the muscle, when you apply resistance, introduce resistance to a muscle, it can't help but grow stronger. The supporting ligaments and tendons and bones, they get more dense, they get stronger. Same thing with the immune system. When you introduce it little to little to outward resistance and things that would come against it, it builds up an immunity and strength against it. It makes no sense to lock people in their house, well, unless there's an agenda. It makes no rational sense to lock yourself into a house, put on your mask when you have never done that before. You can tell it's not going to benefit you because of the basic facts of humanity and just life. Yeah, eat dirt, I'm good, says Stay Out.
It's not something, this is the basis of what we've known.
My dad used to say, you're going to eat a pound of dirt before you die anyway. I don't know if your parents ever told you that, but it's like, hey, don't sweat it. You're going to get dirt in your system, but guess what? Your system is going to combat it, and it's going to get stronger and stronger. It's like some of the strongest immune systems are people who live on farms, and they live in filth. They're tracking in dirt and poop on their shoes, and they don't wash their hands a lot of times, and they get really, really strong. So what's going to happen is we're going to be locked into our houses with this stupid stay at home and stay safe order. And then when everybody comes out of their house, they have a weakened immune system, and then they're going to start getting sick. And then they're going to go, well, look, see, we told you social distancing works. Stay at home, lock in place works. Now that we're out, we need to go back in and extend this thing another 8 weeks.
For years. So what I'm seeing is when you take human beings and you say, go into your house, clean all your counters, Lysol them down, you're going to kill 99% of viruses and bacteria, wear a mask, don't go outside. What does it do to our immune system? Our immune system is used to touching. We share bacteria, staphylococcal, streptococcal bacteria, viruses. We develop an immune response daily to this stuff. When you take that away from me, my immune system drops. As I shelter in place, my immune system drops. You keep me there for months, it drops more. And now I'm at home, hand washing vigorously, washing the counters, worried about things that are indeed what I need to survive. Let's follow the science. This is immunology, folks. This is microbiology. This is what we've come.
And it's not just immunology and microbiology. You know this from experience when you were a kid. Yeah, you might have got sick, but you shook it off and you got stronger and stronger. You know, the flu came up and you built up an immunity and a resistance to it.
Fine.
All right, so now I'm gonna move right along. This right here is at timestamp. I'm gonna start at 21:33, but we're really shooting for 22:24. But I want to give you the context of what he's talking about here, because at the end of what he says here, it's gonna take 60 seconds or so to get there. But he's gonna say that, well, just see if you catch it. I'm not gonna do a spoiler here.
So respectfully, to go off that question, and I know you guys are obviously very intelligent, very accomplished physician, do you think that you guys know more than the top immunologists in the entire United States, and that basically...
Did you hear what that guy said? Can you guys hear what that reporter's saying, or do I need to play it back? Basically, he's saying, do you think you guys know more than the top immunologists in the United States?
Every country in the world has got this wrong. The accelerated urgent care has got this right.
I'm not saying, again, I'm sharing the data. I'm not saying we're right, somebody's
But
wrong.
your conclusions from that data are different than what the top doctors worldwide are concluding. Why is that? Why
They
is that
had no
discrepancy?
data. The data is coming in.
What organization in the US government has no data?
No, I'm saying you have to give the virus time. From December to now, there was tons of hypotheses. You have to let the data work. Let the virus rise up, then we study it and we see, did we respond appropriately? Initially, the response, fine, shut it down. But as the data comes across and we say, no, wait a second.
Did you hear that? Did you guys catch it? Did you guys catch it? I want to see if you caught it. I intentionally passed by it to see if you guys would catch it. It's the voice of your enemy. Listen. I'm going to play it back.
Then we study it and we see, did we respond appropriately? Initially, the response, fine, shut it down. But as the data comes across and we say, no, wait a second.
Did you catch it? Initially, fine, shut it down. Shut it down? Initially, fine, take away liberties, take away freedoms, even though you don't have the data. This is in the context of Fauci not having the data and saying, fine, shut it down. And I'm not exaggerating here, and I'm not putting anything on him that he's not putting on himself, and you're going to see that in a second. In the next couple minutes, you're going to see he meant exactly that. No, not fine, shut it down. Guys, this guy is going viral, and he's okay with the shutdown, and I'm going to show you how okay with the shutdown he actually is. It gets way worse than this, but I'm going to play it again. So he's basically saying Fauci's numbers were wrong at first. They were going on theory. They didn't have the data. But you know, given what they knew then, fine, shut it down. What? Excuse me? Pardon me?
The US government has no data.
No, I'm saying you have to give the virus time. From December to now, there was tons of hypotheses. You have to let the data work. Let the virus rise up, then we study it and we see, did we respond appropriately? Initially, the response, fine, shut it down. But as the data comes across...
That is frickin' BS. That's exactly what he said, and that's exactly what he meant. Now I'm going to move over to 2434. Actually, let's just keep on going with this. That's the voice of an enemy, not the voice of a friend. This is going viral. People are sharing this and saying, look how great these doctors are. And nobody's picking it apart and looking at it through the lens of liberty.
And we say, no, wait a second. We've never...
Yeah, I like what Jason just said. You can't just shut stuff down. Not ever because of some virus. Get real. Not because of anything, guys. You don't shut down. I don't care how dangerous it is out there. Nobody has the authority and the right to mess with another man's life if all he's doing is living as a free man supporting his family. Nobody's got a right to shut you down. I don't care if they have exact accurate numbers. I don't care if 50 million, 100 million people died. Nobody's got a right to shut anything down. Why? Because it's wrong. It's wrong to take away a right. Because when you take away a right, you cost the lives of far more people than that so-called pandemic will ever cost.
Ever responded like this.
This is high levels of deception right here, guys. This is making its way around the world in a viral fashion, and that's why I'm dealing with it.
Of the country. Why are we doing this now?
And you don't think that they're also studying that data, and that their data is even more accurate and more timely than what we're getting here in Kern County?
Go ahead.
Yeah. What's your first name?
Tim.
Tim. So I think
Oh, sorry.
thank you for your question. I think your question is valid, and obviously Dr. Fauci is a world-renowned immunologist, and
Listen to these accolades they're about to lay on Fauci.
a lot of the data that they originally gave us was theoretical, because coronavirus is a new virus. We've studied coronavirus since the 70s. Coronavirus was
I think I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt there. He said coronavirus is new, and then he said we've studied coronavirus since the 70s.
Well, we studied different coronaviruses. This one is novel. Like SARS is a form of coronavirus, MERS is a form of coronavirus.
Sure.
We studied different times, but this one is new. So with all due respect, again, we haven't studied this virus.
But if you let me finish, so every year, according to your argument that you just made, every year,
Not an argument, but
every year when we get the flu, it's a new flu virus, correct?
correct.
But 99% of it is flu, correct? The way viruses change, they undergo mutations through their DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. There are different types of mutations which either cause increased virulence and more likely decreased virulence, meaning how dangerous.
I got to give you the context here, guys, but there's 36 more seconds till we get to what he's about to say. Let's check this out.
Viruses. So when coronavirus was, we've been studying coronavirus since the 70s. And this type of coronavirus that came out was first and foremost transmissible through human beings, and that was new. And I think any time you have something new in the medical community, I've been a doctor for 26 years. Anytime you have something new in the medical community, it sparks fear. And I would have done what Dr. Fauci did, so we both would have initially. Because the first thing you do is you want to make sure you limit liability and limit deaths. And I think what they did was brilliant initially. But
Okay, did you catch it? Did you catch it? Why is nobody in the truth community, the liberty community, catching this? Every time I hear this, it pisses me the frick off, because this translates to the loss of life. It translates to economic terrorism. It translates to a wink and a nod to the bankers. This is B frickin' S, guys. BS. I call frickin' BS. Why didn't you catch this, Gary Franchi? Why isn't anybody catching this that's making this go viral? When you spread this kind of stuff and say these guys are okay, you're basically putting yourself under the covers with the bankers and all enemies of freedom. I'm going to play this again, guys. Listen to this.
doctor for 26 years. Anytime you have something new in the medical community, it sparks fear. And I would have done what Dr. Fauci did, so we both would have initially.
I would have done what Dr. Fauci did. We both would have initially. What did Dr. Fauci did? He called for lock in place, stay at home, quit your jobs. 26.5 million people in the unemployment line, socialist style bread lines. We would have done what Dr. Fauci did initially based on, and they even admit, guys, I know I'm getting loud on this, but they even admit that Fauci operated on limited to no data. Yeah, June says traitors, Illuminati says sellouts. Amen. I'm glad people see this. I mean, because sometimes when you see this kind of stuff and nobody else does, you kind of question your sanity. You honestly do. But listen to what else they said. What he did was, he says, what Fauci did was brilliant initially. He took away people's lives and rights, and people are committing suicide, and they're going to be homeless, and the middle class is going to be erased, and they would have done what he did. This is armchair quarterbacking too. They're looking back at it saying, we would have done what Fauci did, and nobody's catching this? You got to be kidding me. Why is this going viral in a positive light? This should go viral in a negative light.
Because the first thing you do is you want to make sure you limit liability and limit deaths. And I think what they did was brilliant.
You don't limit liability and limit death by taking away freedom. You actually cost more lives.
Initially.
I'm just going to listen.
Limit deaths. And I think what they did was brilliant initially. But, looking at theories and models, which is what these folks use, is very different than...
Do you hear that? They're admitting that Fauci and them and Deborah Birx and all them were operating off of theories and models and shut it down, and they would have done the same thing. These guys right here are traitors. They're traitors to the Constitution. They're traitors to your individual liberties. They're enemies of you and your family and all that is right. They don't care. They don't care about freedom. They've compromised. They've sold their souls. You can't. You can't because freedom is worth fighting for. Why? Because it's right. Let's see. I'm going to go to listen to what they say about testing. Anybody who's for testing is for the pharmaceutical and biotech companies. Anybody who's for vaccines is for the biotech companies. You might as well be on the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation board if you're going to be pushing testing and vaccines. Listen to this. This is from timestamp 29 minute.
We're not wearing masks. Why is that? Because we understand microbiology, we understand immunology.
See, this is what I hate. They say a bunch of right things. We're not wearing masks. Why? Because we understand immunology, because we have common sense and we see how it works. This is what I can't stand about this being a traitor. Is they come to you as your friend and they say a bunch of right things, then they turn right around and say something exactly the opposite, hypocritical, tyrannical, despotic.
And we want strong immune systems. I don't want to hide in my home, develop a weak immune system, and then come out and get disease. We have both been in the ER through swine flu and through bird flu. Did we shut down for those? Were they much less dangerous than COVID? Is the flu less dangerous than COVID? Let's look at the death rates. No, it's not. They're similar in prevalence and in death rate. So we're saying that our response now that we know the facts, it's time to get back to work. It's time to test people. But again, testing gives you a moment in time.
Did you hear that? It's time to get back to work. It's time to test people. Now, what he means by that, and I'm going to show you how I know this is what he means, is you're not going to go back to work and we're not going to open things up until we have general testing. What? You just admitted through this entire thing, these guys are admitting that CV-19 is not even close to being as deadly as the seasonal flu. And we've never shut down for the seasonal flu, but now all of a sudden we got to start doing testing or you can't go back to work. That's what these guys are pushing. I'm going to show you right now. Let's see. I'm going to go to 31, the 31 timestamp. This I got to lead up to it real quick. This is where they're talking about adding CV numbers to the Johns Hopkins site, fear porn map.
Why are we being pressured to add COVID to maybe increase the numbers and make it look a little bit worse than it is? I think so. So this is what I'm hearing from...
Yeah, he's flying over the target right there, isn't he? He sounds like us, doesn't he? Sounds like he's for freedom and exposing lies, doesn't he? Yep.
Physicians I talked to in Wisconsin, New York, and everywhere.
So you think that physicians are being pressured to make the numbers look worse than they are?
Listen, that was a great question. So you think physicians are being pressured into making the numbers look worse than they are?
They're being pressured to add it to their diagnostic list. So,
Where is that pressure coming from?
well, I probably coming from the administration. So their administration is saying, it's probably coming from the hospital administration. I didn't ask them specifically, but they said we're being pressured in-house to add COVID.
He's coming up with anecdotal stuff. All you got to do is say, follow the money. Hey, who's benefiting from this? Oh, Eli Lilly. Oh, Merck. Oh, Inovio. Oh, Abbott Labs. Those guys are benefiting. Okay, now here we go. Listen close to this. Very close. This is what they mean by testing.
25% of patients who have COVID are asymptomatic, which is why we advocate for widespread testing. In order to open the economy, you have to have widespread testing. That's number one, no question about it. But historically, if you look at...
Did you get it? The voice of an enemy that's gone viral, and all your Liberty friends are sharing this video like these guys are on board with you. They want you, they have your best interest at heart. I'm going to play this again. I cannot emphasize how important what they just said is. What this guy just said is highly important. Cannot be ignored. Listen.
25% of patients who have COVID are asymptomatic, which is why we advocate for widespread testing. In order to open the economy, you have to have widespread testing. That's number one.
We advocate for widespread testing. In order to open the economy, you need widespread testing. Who does that play into the favor of? Not you, not me, not your friends and family, not for workers who are going broke, not for the middle class who are being erased, not for the people who are about to lose their homes. It plays into the hands of the bankers and the pharmaceutical oligarchs, period. We need widespread testing before we can open up. Now, why would you need widespread testing? Yeah, big pharma, exactly. Love Star. Sorry, I didn't get your name. Why would you need widespread testing if CV is not as deadly as the regular influenza when we've never shut anything down? They've made the argument crystal clear. Couldn't even be more clear, and I agree with it. We never shut anything down for the flu. Why are we doing it for CV-19? Well, we never had to have testing to go to work with the flu. Why would we need it for CV-19 unless they're not working for you? Let me say that again. We advocate for widespread testing. I'm just going to, here, you just listen to it yourself. This is the voice of your enemy. Gary Franchi, I'm calling you to account, man. You're pushing these guys like they're some kind of heroes. And this is a Trojan horse. As soon as they enter the building walls, they're going to step out and start throwing torches and burn your crap down, man. Faster than you can say, I've been deceived by a political puppet.
25% of patients who have COVID are asymptomatic, which is why we advocate for widespread testing. In order to open the economy, you have to have widespread testing. That's number one.
That's BS. In order to open the economy, you just need freedom. You need free thinking people thinking for themselves, and you just keep your hands off of them. You don't require testing. You don't have widespread testing. You just open things up. Matter of fact, you never shut things down to begin with because that's not consistent with the principles of individual liberties. I'm going to move here real fast. We're going to go to 36:15. By the way, that timestamp for this video was 33 minutes exactly. We're going to go to 36:15. 36:15. I'm gonna start at 36 for context.
Let's see here.
All right, I'm gonna start. Yeah, here we go.